Hello bookworms! Today I'm here to do my May wrap-up. As I said, my end of month videos would be totally out of order because of the chaos that is Book Expo and BookCon, so you're getting my wrap-up later than usual this month. But I actually did not read as many books in May as I have in months past. I still managed to read 7 books and 2 volumes of manga, which, that's good, but I literally did not read a single thing from like the middle of May to the end of May. So I spent like 2.5 weeks. I didn't read anything because I got really addicted to Pokemon Moon, and that is all that I did. That just consumed my life, and I am very close to finishing like the main story in it, and my Pokedex is pretty full, which is good. But I started Warcross, so now I don't know when I'm gonna get back to the game. But I'll show you what I read this month in the meantime. So the most obvious book that I read is ACOWAR by Sarah J. Maas. I have said this a couple of times. I did a book club with Cassie for the Spines with Wines book club on this story. So if you want to hear my hour-long thoughts, like very spoilery things that happened during the series, you can go and check that video out. But I ended up really loving this conclusion. It made me cry a lot, but it was really great, and I feel really good about everything that happened in it and where it ended. I felt like there was so much that was added to the story in this final volume, and it was just incredible. I obviously gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han, and this is another series under. It's the 3rd and final book in the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy, and I actually loved this book more than the first 2, which I didn't think was possible. The second one is definitely the weakest book in my opinion, but this one was so great because it takes place in Lara Jean's senior year of high school, so she's a lot more mature, and I just felt like the character development in this one was like astronomically better than it was in the first 2. Like, you definitely have a strong sense of the characters, and Kitty definitely was like the strongest character in the first couple of books, but in this one, like, Lara Jean really is an amazing main character. I felt like she really gained more confidence and she really like came into herself. I love Peter Kay. Like, love him. So I really love this one. I was so satisfied with this conclusion. There was so much talk in this book of like finding the recipe for the perfect chocolate chip cookie, so it will make you very hungry. But I really loved it. If you enjoyed the first 2 books or even just the first book, I would definitely recommend reading this one because it was so much better than the other 2. This one I definitely gave a 5 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read this again because it just made me so happy. I also read The Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan. This is the 4th book in the Percy Jackson series, so that means that I only have 1 more to go, and then I can move on to Magnus Chase, which makes me really happy. But I really liked this one. As I said, I was kind of like about the first 2 books. Like, I thought that they were clever, but I wasn't in love with them. And then I really enjoyed the 3rd book. And this one, again, I felt the same way. Like, I really enjoyed it a lot more than the first 2. I think so far the 3rd one is still my favorite, but I'm definitely interested to see how the series is going to end. I am totally shipping Percy and Annabeth, so I totally get that now. And I just really enjoyed it. And I love the mythology aspect to it. I think it's really well done. And I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire. This is one of the shortest books ever. Read this in a day, and it was so beautiful and so well done. It follows a main character who ends up going to this like school for all of these kids who were sucked into magical worlds, but then thrown back out into the real world, and they all have to kind of cope with like coming to terms that chances are they're never going back to those fantasy worlds again that they love so much more than the world that they were thrown back into. So this school exists to help them adjust to like normal society, and it serves as like a support group for each kid. And there are like a bunch of different ways that the magical worlds are broken down. So like the kids are split into groups based on what type of world it is that they entered into. It was really much better than I was expecting, which is hard to believe since so many people have read and loved this, but I still just like wasn't sure about it. But it definitely like definitely surpassed my expectations. Really enjoyed it. There was a murder mystery that went on in it that I was not expecting, and I just thought that it was so well done. And the main character in the book is asexual, and there's another like main character that is transgender. So there's like a lot of really good representation in here, and everything is just like really done very well. And this one was a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller, and I was also like really pleasantly surprised by this one. I didn't have the highest expectations going into it, even though I was really excited that it is a pirate book. I had heard like kind of mixed things about it, but I ended up really enjoying it. I thought it was like a really fun adventure story. There's something that happens in it that is the thing that made me love it even more, but it doesn't happen until like, I think it's a little bit over halfway into the book. So if you're struggling with it, you might also be more into it after that thing happens. But I really, really loved it. And if I had one complaint about it, it's the fact that it's a pirate book, but there really wasn't any pirate speak. Like everything took place on like pirate ships and stuff, and like all of the situations were very piratey, but they didn't speak like pirates, which I was expecting, but I still really enjoyed it. Again, I thought it was a really fun adventure, and I really love the cover of the second book, but I would say not to look that up if you haven't read this one yet, because it's kind of a spoiler. I was really surprised. Like, the second cover got announced when I was like halfway through this book, or when I was more than halfway through the book, and I was like, wow, I'm really glad that I started reading this now instead of like a day or two from now, because then I would have been totally spoiled on this thing. But I really, really liked it, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Hello Sunshine by Layla Howland, and this is an arc. This comes out in July. I was really, really looking forward to this one because I love Layla Howland's Nantucket duology. That is probably one of my favorite summer contemporary reads like ever. I still like that series a lot more than I ended up liking this book, unfortunately, but I still thought it was really fun. It wasn't my favorite, but it was really enjoyable to read. And it was also cool because, so it follows this main character who doesn't get into college. She only applies to like a couple of colleges, and she doesn't get into any of them. So instead of like going to community college, she decides to take a really unconventional route, and she like uproots herself. She moves to LA because she wants to be an actress. So it's all about her trying to like get it together and like try to get auditions, try to get an agent. Like, she learns so much. She thinks it's going to be so easy to like get there and book things because she is a really like upbeat and aggressive person. She's not afraid to like put herself out there, but things are obviously like way more complicated than she ever imagined them being. Like, she didn't even think about things like furnishing her apartment, or like what it is to like buy your own groceries and like do all the things that adults need to do in their everyday lives. So it was interesting to see that. And then it was also really interesting to just see the side of her like working with just like the little roles that she would get in things, or like try to get in things but they wouldn't work out. It was definitely like a way different experience than I've read in any other book, so that was really cool. And I really liked her two friends in the book that also lived in the same apartment building as her. I thought that their friendship was really adorable, and it left me feeling like really good and really happy, but I still love the Nantucket duology like so much more, so I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley. Kath Crowley is an Australian YA author. A lot of people love her backlist books, which I have not read yet, but I was really eagerly anticipating this one because, so it follows a girl named Rachel who was best friends with this guy named Henry, and Henry works in a bookstore that his family owns. It's like an indie bookstore, and it's obviously like a difficult time because they are, like bookstores are definitely struggling when it comes to how easy it is to purchase things on like Amazon and all that kind of stuff. Rachel's always had a crush on him, and then she is going to be moving, so she leaves Henry a letter in his favorite book, like near his favorite poem, confessing that she loves him, and then she doesn't hear a response from him before she leaves. So she gets really upset, she moves away, and her brother ends up passing away. Her younger brother. Circumstances change. She ends up moving back to the town that Henry lives in. She doesn't tell she didn't really even keep in touch with any of her old friends. Except for one of them. She hasn't told any of them what happened to her brother, what she's been through or anything. And Henry is still dating this terrible girl that treats him horribly, like when Rachel gets back there, but they get like pushed into a lot of situations together. They try to be friends again. But Henry is obviously really hurt, you know, that Rachel didn't write back to any of his letters. Henry wrote these like really long letters to her and she just like wouldn't respond to him. She started responding with like paragraphs, then like a sentence, and then she just cut off communication. So he is trying to deal with like trusting her again. Meanwhile, she is still having all these like horrible emotions about losing her brother, and she doesn't really have like feelings anymore because she's just like so upset and traumatized by this. But the main thing that made me love this book so much is that, well, first of all, there's the bookstore aspect, but in this bookstore, they have this library where people go, and it's like I think it's a lending library, but you can't like buy any of the books in it, but people go and they write all of these things like letters and stuff in books to other people, whether they'll see them or they won't see them. And it's just really fun to see all these characters like communicating through books and to just like get glimpses into the lives of other people that you don't even necessarily like get to know beyond the letters that they've left in books. And if you like John Green, I think that you'll really enjoy this. It's like a more literary YA book, and also just the references to different authors and different works of literature was really exciting to read. So I really, really love this one. It was definitely like not only love letters between these characters, but it was a love letter to like books and reading. So I think that a lot of people would really enjoy this one. It was a really good, like a much deeper contemporary. And I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. And then finally I read volumes 9 and 10 of Yamura-kan and the 10 Witches, which is a manga series that I've been reading for a while now. It follows a main character, Yamada, and oh, that might not be him, that's the other guy. He discovers that there's like witch powers, so him, of course, like there's like a crazy situation that like, you know, launched the whole thing. So him and this girl are walking down the stairs and he's like kind of being a jerk and goes to like walk up the stairs faster than her, but he accidentally pushes her and then the two of them fall down the stairs together and accidentally kiss and accidentally switch bodies. So then they discover that there are all of these like secret witch powers at their school. And the whole series has been them trying to uncover who the other witches are and what their powers are. It's really fun. It's really interesting and I really like it. The main story arc is coming to a close. I actually read them digitally on Crunchyroll because they have them all there, but I think the main story arc actually like ends in either volume 10 or volume 11, and then it moves on to like a new class of characters. So I'm not positive that I'm gonna actually continue once that this main storyline is wrapped up, because I feel like I've gotten closure on these characters, but it's really fun. I think there's like 25 volumes total, and I really enjoy it. It's just like quick, fun, light reading. So those are all of the books that I read this May. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I have mentioned. I'm sure a lot of you have read ACOWAR. I'm so sad that Lord of Shadows is not in this wrap up, but it will definitely be in my next one. That is all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!